I have dedicated all my scientific knowledge and skill to projects which I knew could be put to evil purposes. For the common good, they said. How easy to believe in the common good when that belief is rewarded with status, wealth, and power. How hard to believe in the common good when every fiber of my being tells me that the awesome forces I have helped to create have been put into the hands of madmen! I'm being gagged by the vomit of my own corruption! Is it not fitting then that I be president of this quiet earth? I've been condemned to live.
Hello and welcome to Still Watching the Skies for April 2017. I'm Robert Reinecke.
I'm Nat L. Morrell.
I'm Cody Lane.
Every month we explore the lesser discussed science fiction movies of the past. Some famous, some obscure, all of which we believe will create interesting conversations. This month we're discussing a film that fits into the more obscure category with 1985's The Quiet Earth from New Zealand director Geoff Murphy. Nat, since it's your pick of the month, why don't you tell our listeners about the film, as I expect many haven't seen it.
I'd be happy to, Robert. So, The Quiet Earth is a 1985 New Zealand film directed by New Zealand filmmaker Geoff Murphy. Probably best known for directing Young Guns 2 or
I was hoping you would mention that.
Under Siege 2 Dark Territory.
Which I have seen.
I have as well. Katherine Hagel apparently is his niece in that one. Also second unit director on the 3 Lord of the Rings films.
Oh. And he's director of Free Jack, which I saw in the theater, unfortunately.
I have heard of Free Jack, but I have not seen it. It looks a little bit like the Virtuosity. If you remember that with it Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe?
Yeah, I don't remember anything about Free Jack other than I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I can see that. But Young Guns 2, I think we're all fans of, right?
I am a fan, yeah.
I have not seen it.
Seen it many times. More than the first one, actually. Which I like the first one more.
Is this like Cody's form of self-punishment? I watch the films I don't like more often than the ones I do?
No, it's just when I was a kid, it was on TV all the time. So I had seen Young Guns 2 many times before I had seen Young Guns 1 on cable. Nothing really special there. It's just, one of the many films I've seen many times, like Beastmaster.
Mm-hmm. I think we've all seen Beastmaster, probably many more times than is humanly recommended by the FDA.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Exactly.
I don't know if I've seen all of Beastmaster in one sitting, but I believe I've seen all of Beastmaster multiple times.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I need to look on YouTube to see if someone has just done a compilation of all of Rip Torn's scenes from Beastmaster.
Yeah.
If they ever do like a best of Rip Torn, I mean, you have to have him as Max shouting some incantation and holding a child over a pit of fire. But we don't see that in The Quiet Earth.
No.
What we do see is a man named Zach Hobson, who awakens to find himself alone in the world. In a desperate attempt to search for others, he finds only 2 who have their own agenda. That is taken from IMDb. I think that's a pretty good synopsis there. Just to add on to it, Zach is a scientist working on Project Flashlight, which apparently is to account. They kind of go into the description of this and kind of don't, but it's not quite spoiler territory in the summation. But Project Flashlight, the project he was working on, has something to do with the disappearance of everyone on Earth. It's based on a sci-fi novel also called The Quiet Earth. The author's name escapes me, but it was written in 1981. And I think the thing that we can all agree on, and anyone who has listened to this podcast consistently for at least, 3 years, can say is that this is basically the world, the flesh, and the devil, with a New Zealand spin on it. And just to give a few initial thoughts, I like the movie. I think there's a lot of interesting ground that may not necessarily be quite as filled by the world, the flesh, and the devil. But I think it's consistently a little bit better than that film, but I'm not sure if I would say there are as many memorable moments or great interjections of music in this movie. but we can get into that. I cannot believe, though, and I do not find anywhere on either IMDb or Wikipedia a reference to or influence from The World, the Flesh, and the Devil. But it has to be. Like, at least the sci-fi novel has to be working from that. But
it is mentioned on the Wikipedia page for the movie.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
I did not see that. Oh, okay. I see its other sources of inspiration have been listed. Okay, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Right in the top there. Of which it has been called an unofficial remake. Well, good. Well, I recant what I just said, and I will pass it over to Robert.
I enjoyed the film. It reminded me... it's kind of an unusual hodgepodge. It reminded me of something that Cody said back in episode 1, that science fiction as a genre doesn't really have a form. I kind of tried to put The Quiet Earth into a genre pigeonhole as it went along, and it kind of changes itself as it goes along, because I wouldn't really call it a thriller. I really wouldn't call it a comedy. There may be a horrific element or two, but it's really not a horror film. It's not a romance. Even though there is some romantic tension going on there, I wouldn't call it a romance. I really wouldn't call it a melodrama. And as a drama, I don't know. I mean, it might be a little bit of a character study, but I really don't know if I ever really got to know Zach Hobson's very well as a character. But I mean, it just seemed to be kind of an exploration of a world where everything has changed and people find themselves alone. So I'm not sure if it really fits into a genre, but I always found it pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. And I think I found it interesting for some of the questions which it doesn't really answer, because I don't think it's ever conclusively proven that Project Flashlight is what caused everybody to disappear, or even that everybody else disappeared, and not just the three characters of the film that disappeared maybe into some sort of parallel world.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like that question about what exactly is going on there, and that they don't quite nail it down completely. I think it leaves it open to interpretation. I think that's interesting. I mean, I think there's at least one interpretation that they're in some sort of purgatory in the way that the world has changed, and maybe it's because of Zach Hobson's work on Project Flashlight, and how can he atone for what he had done. So those are some of the things that I found interesting about the film. I thought it was funny at parts. I thought the ideas, the science fiction ideas, were all well explored. I don't think it ever really gripped me as saying this is had me on the edge of my seat at anything, but I did find myself getting in the groove and enjoying the characters, their thoughts on what's going on, and some of the deeper questions. I think at one point they bring up the idea, did God blink for what went on here? And I think that's the sort of thing, rather than Project Flashlight, that I thought added an extra dimension of depth to the film.
Mm-hmm.
Cody?
Oh yeah, I'm in agreement. I thought it was really good. I have never heard of this movie before. I knew the director only because of the sequels he's made, and the sequels to films he didn't make the originals to. So I didn't really know, his body of work. And I had read a review of from the Chicago Reader, like way back in the day, when they would have these little capsule reviews, and Dave Kerr, who was the then writer back then, who's done a bunch of other stuff in New York after that, but he said that this guy is like New Zealand's answer to George Miller, in that he's kind of learned from Hollywood films, action films, and can make them just as well as Hollywood directors. And so, like, to be honest, as like a sci-fi movie compared to like the first Mad Max, I like this one a lot more. I think the second Mad Max is probably a little bit better than this one, but in terms of like comparing those two guys, I think that this is a pretty good piece of work. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like this kind of stuff is typical of this guy's career, but not that really matters. I would like to clarify what I maybe said in the first episode. I don't remember saying that, but I'm sure I said something like that. I was trying to say that sci-fi movies, and probably literature as well too, don't have like a stable narrative structure or form,
like a rigid set of
or even a very loose one. Like it's not as defined as like as like the comic or the tragic or a romance or irony, satire stuff. Like, it does seem to, like, in terms of the books I've read, it seems to take from the romance tradition and the tragic tradition. This movie is, it depends on how you read the ending, but it is kind of, if you're looking at just like the narrative, it is kind of like somewhere between a romance and like a romance narrative, not in the sense that it's about a love story, but classical romance and a bit of a tragedy, and we'll get into the ending too, because I think the ending raises a lot of questions about what happened before, and like what happened during the movie will, like depending on what you make sense of that, will change how you see the ending too. So it's a really cool movie in that respect. But I will say, science fiction movies it's really easy to spot a science fiction movie. It's and the way that we define them is through typically through things like either set design or the time period when the film was made, or if the narrative is really, really focused on just science or technology, like something like Andromeda Strain, right? Like, that's not in the near future, or like that's kind of in the near future, but it's not way in the future where everyone's wearing like Star Trek uniforms and stuff. Like that movie is conceivably in our world, like the world that we have as an audience, but it's still considered sci-fi. I'm not sure what kind of subgenre of sci-fi it would be. Maybe like, I don't know, medical sci-fi or whatever Michael Crichton is known for, but
techno thriller,
yeah. But I actually liked this one a lot, and I'm glad that that we all watched the other one before, The World of Flesh and Devil, because it's so similar, and like, it's kind of fun comparing what happens in this one to that movie, because that one really plays up the, I guess, like the triangle, the sort of quasi love triangle, whereas this one downplays it a bit, and then eventually, like, the film is like eventually about the one guy's story, Zach, right? That's the guy's name.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's about his story, and the idea, like, the fact that the movie has like really strong spiritual or religious, like very, very, very Christian overtones, mixed with nuclear, apocalypse and technology. I think that's what makes it really strong, and that's what kind of made me think of like Tarkovsky's movies that always have really strong spiritual aspects to them, even though they're really hard sci-fi films as well too. And so, yeah, I would like to talk about this one a lot. It's actually really good, and not only is the story interesting, but I really like the visuals in it, like the sort of sort of like flashes of like red and black ball, like sort of like these like really ambiguous sequences where the characters are, you know, experiencing some kind of flashback or maybe flash forward. I'm not sure how to interpret them, but they really added like a different sort of atmosphere to the film too. It's not what I expected, that's for sure. It's definitely better than Dead Man's Letters.
It's a little bit more upbeat too, right?
Well, it's just more enjoyable. Like that one just didn't have a strong story. I thought that one was good too, but for different reasons. But this one is like, it's probably like my favorite movie that we've watched this year so far, unless I'm just forgetting something that I really liked before. But it'll be hard to top this one for sure. And my pick for next month is not going to top it.
Well, actually, yeah, just going off of that, I feel this one, it's kind of like a social or thought experiment. And at least what I really get from it is I can't think of another film in this genre that or type, like subtype of science fiction, that really conveys the isolation or loneliness of being the last person on Earth quite as well as this one. And I think it does spend a lot of time, both this and The World of Flesh and Devil do spend a lot of time with kind of the quote-unquote last man. But I really like what it chooses to focus on with Zach before he meets up with Joanne and later Appy. But like that whole sequence of him getting the cardboard cutouts and taking over the mansion, and
that was really good.
Yeah, and I love, like, there's a very
and he's wearing that nightgown, like a female nightgown.
Yeah, like just, you know, as hedonistic or trying to live a hedonistic lifestyle when there's no one else on Earth, and just trying all these weird different things, and even like how those scenes are shot with like these extreme close-up angles and like kind of like the Sam Raimi or Peter Jackson, like early Peter Jackson even. Although I think this probably would predate any of Peter Jackson's New Zealand movies, but
yeah,
excuse me. But just like that weird frenetic kind of look to him. But I feel it just really gets like kind of going crazy and just being very remorseful and focusing more on some of the emotions that would come from being in this situation, as opposed to trying to explain away all the science behind everything and trying to find like a perfectly technical explanation for everything. I think I really admire the film for at least trying to find more of like the human element, or how would people react in this situation, as opposed to just like a purely technical answer. And I think it does, I guess, certain tropes or plot points really well. Like when they meet up with Appy, who's the last person that they meet. Mm-hmm. Like he's driving through the city or town, and he sees this weird setup, and it's just all visual, where like a car is parked in a position that normally it should not be parked in, and that's kind of the indication that there's somebody else there. And I think it's a good way of just easily conveying that suspense.
Yeah, add some suspense, and I think some Mad Max level paranoia that there's somebody else out there and he might not be up to good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I really enjoyed that they really do kind of focus in on, I guess, Zach Hobson's the character's name, and what his guilt that he's working through, that he might have caused everything that happened here indirectly just for some money and some status and that. And a lot of this is him working through his own personal issues as part of the military-industrial complex in some way. And I guess it's not a nuclear Armageddon, but it's something that seems equivalent for it. I guess it's a nice metaphor for it, and especially a metaphor that you can afford to film in New Zealand in 1985, was it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like you don't really notice the budgetary limitations on this one, and you don't. I'm not looking for any. Like I wasn't wanting more special, set pieces. I got a lot from just the way that the director was using these like abstract, really brief montage sequences where, and again, I'd like to get into the spoiler territory here because I think like the ending. Okay, do you guys want to go to the ending now, or should we just talk a bit more?
I have a couple of things I'd like to get to before we get to the ending, just so it'd be
sorry.
more convenient spoiler-wise.
Okay, sorry. Okay, everyone go ahead. I'll just be quiet.
But one of the things I do like, and I think would play for both comedic and pathos, is where eventually he starts communicating via the radio. And then at some point he says, "Why am I still living in this middle class little shack I in?" And he moves up to the upper class space, kind of encroaches on. And I kind of thought that was a nice bit of humor there. I also think we ought to talk about the two relationships between Zach and Joanne first. And how that plays out, and then later when Appy shows up. I think it's notable that Appy is, Maori?
Yeah.
Maori.
So they certainly do create the love triangle aspect of the world of Flesh the Devil with the racial overtones to it, but I think they manage it in a fairly significant way. It's a subtext, but it's never really the text of the film, and they never, and all of them behave with it as adults as it goes along. And I think that's, I would say that how they manage it is the weakest part of the world of Flesh and the Devil, especially when it descends into gunfight in the band in New York. While this one, I think everybody behaves as an adult here, which is maybe kind of a little bit. I don't want to say dull, but maybe it doesn't lead to a lot of tension. But I think people behaving as adults is a good is something interesting to see on film.
I love adult films. Yeah,
I agree, and it just feels like such a cop out to make it a love triangle when I'm actually more interested in just understanding like how these characters are adapting to their situation as opposed to let's just make them fight over this because everyone will expect us to make them fight over this.
Yeah.
But I think Joanne, I guess, is Alan Rutledge, and Zach have good chemistry to begin with, and I kind of like how they reveal that it's become sexual. They don't really have to say it, but she just kind of turns around in one scene and with some kind of apron on and reveals she's not wearing any pants. And I think that's... I like both his reaction and the way it kind of reveals something without having to be very explicit about it.
But I think, too, they also get across like their friendship extremely well. Like just how... when they first meet and like that embrace that they have, like there's not really that much of a sexuality to that moment. It's just like this utter desperation between these two people who just have been looking for someone else and like anyone just to find just to ensure that they're not alone. And I think both actors do a really great job in that moment, like really selling that moment of like finding another person, that just that need for contact. I think it's really, and it's not like a bunch of words or anything. There's no monologue of, oh, if I could only would that I were to find one. But yeah, just like all in their face and reaction, and their hug is, quite compelling.
And I'm also appreciative that it does deal with Zach's need to atone for what he may or may not have done as part of the military-industrial complex, and I guess that feeds into the ending. But as it works its way to the end, you can see that he's willing to put the needs of the others above himself at the end. I think that's quite effective. So do we want to move into spoiler territory?
Well, I wouldn't be opposed.
I'm good with that.
Okay. So, Cody,
Okay, so so the ending, he drives the truck. He drives a truck full of explosives, goes into the weak roof part, falls in, blows up the plant, right? Blows up the
Project Flashlight, so...
Yeah, he blows up, so he causes another event like it happened before. Is that true?
Yeah, I think he's trying to short-circuit another event from happening, but it basically happens at the same time that he crashes the truck into the facility.
Okay, so which means if the event happened again, so maybe just to backtrack for listeners who haven't seen the movie, so the reason why they survived is because each of them were about to die when the first event happened. Like when Project Flashlight went online, everyone died in the world, or close to these people, except for these 3 people, because they were about to die themselves, and their death was somehow preserved them. That's now keeping in mind that is only true if they didn't actually die, and this isn't like their purgatory or whatever. I don't read it that way. I read it more as like an allegory for that. But if it's literal purgatory, that's fine too. In any case, so if he blows everything up, he's about to die when the next event happens. The other 2 people then die because they weren't about to die, technically. So then they're actually dead. He is actually alive. So he failed. He's actually alive in the end.
That's one way to read it.
Yeah, but wouldn't that make sense if that if you're going by the rules of the movie, right? Like that if you're about to die when the event happens, then they actually die, and he survives, and he's now transported to like a new planet or something because like he can see Saturn on the horizon and a bunch of other weird stuff. Right?
Yeah,
like,
weird
or do you
cloud
guys
formations and
or do you guys read it as him dying?
Is that supposed to be Saturn, or is it just
just another planet that looks like Saturn? I don't know.
Yeah, somehow the rules of reality were rewritten with the event.
Okay, but how do you guys read the ending? Like, do you read it as him saving them, him destroying the Project Flashlight, and then him dying, and then him in some sort of heaven space in the end, or how else do you guys, or how else can you interpret the ending?
Well, one of the questions I have is Zach even right about his theory of what happened?
Okay.
One of the things they could be all the people that are about to die were shunted into an alternate reality.
Right.
And he's shunted into another alternate reality, and it could go on forever. Each of these parallel universes with different rules of laws of the universe and different, basically laws of physics. Because I think he established that there's the electron, potential or whatever has changed. So maybe it's not even our universe anymore. Because I expect a lot out of science. I doubt that humanity can rewrite the laws of the universe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that opens up another idea. But, I mean, your idea is perfectly valid, too. He's all alone in another purgatory world that he has to work his guilt out on, and that he failed again. I don't know. I mean, it can be read in a number of ways. I think I'll take the more optimistic view and say he was shunted off to a parallel universe with different laws, and he's going to have to explore and learn from that.
Okay.
Either one of those.
Is that the optimistic one, though? Or he's all alone again?
He's going to die alone in some other...
Yeah.
I don't think mine's that negative. It's like I'm just trying to, go by the rules of the movie. Like, let's just take it. Like, let's just accept for now that the rules of the way that he explained the event and how they survived are true. They're actually on Earth. It's not a parallel Earth. Mm-hmm. And then he tries to shut it down, but as he's blowing it up, another event occurs. They die, the Maori and the woman, and then he goes to, and then because he's about to die on Earth, he then gets transported to somewhere else. Where that is, I don't know, but it could be heaven or it could be another level of purgatory. I don't remember how many levels of purgatory there are in Dante's Divine Comedy, but it seems like this has like strong, it has like strong parallels with that. Except that because that one starts with hell, then purgatory, and then heaven. So that could be the way it's working in this film too. Like it starts with hell, just being on Earth, and then purgatory with two people, and then heaven with the new planet Saturn or whatever. I don't know, ending thing. But I'm curious, like, how else would you? So, okay, well, maybe I'll just let Nat try to explain what he thinks the ending is.
So is one of these basically what happened with the first Project Flashlight is happening with the second one? So like dying at the moment Project Flashlight is engaged puts you in a different world, and then destroying Project Flashlight and dying like puts him into a different world. Is that your read, Robert?
That's my basic read. I mean, I could be. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer on that. That's my basic read on it. And at very least, I can say that he has atoned for his sins at the conclusion of by being willing to sacrifice himself for others. Whether that was a futile sacrifice or not depends on.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I still think his sacrifice is valid. Like because he still thought he was going to save them, right? It's just dumb luck that that the event happened again, and he then blew it up, so it won't happen in the future. Because it's not unreasonable to think there are other people on other continents in the world that were going to die at some point. So there are a bunch of other people who are alive. It's not just those three people.
Yeah.
And I think that's reasonable.
And we don't know that Project Flashlight works the same in this new world with new intrinsic laws of the universe either.
But we don't. Yeah, but we have no reason to not think it. Like we don't know a lot of things. We're just going off of what the movie is giving us.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's very possible that he was just teleported somewhere else when the event happened, and everybody's still alive because the laws of the universe have changed, and it warped reality in some other way.
Yeah. Okay. So Nat, how do you see the end?
I think take it just very ambiguously. Like I think it's a really nice setting, but it's also desolate, and it's kind of, I hate to say what you make of it, but I think uncertainty is kind of a theme that's running throughout the film. Like Zach doesn't really know how culpable he is in the events that led to the world being depopulated, and he doesn't even know for a fact that it is Project Flashlight that led to it. It could have been something entirely different or something tangentially related, or he doesn't really have any certainty as to like how much he is to blame. And I'm still not entirely sure like why he needs to destroy it at the end of the movie either. Like he doesn't really know the impact that it's necessarily having. Like,
yeah, like it seems like a really dumb plan, to be honest. But like my first idea for a plan would not be to drive a truck full of like dynamite. It would be to go in there and just shut it all down or something. I think there's a few throwaway lines about why they can't do that, but I don't remember them.
Well, because it was throwing off so much radiation, it's basically a microwave oven.
Yeah, so they can't go in because they'll just get fried, or they'll get radiation poisoning, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So he's got to drive in like a kamikaze pilot or something. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But he doesn't really know the impact that it's going to have shutting it off. Like I'm not even sure he's like certain if it is the thing that's causing like different changes to occur in the world. And if he is right, and you want to take him waking up on a different planet literally, then it doesn't appear that he had that much of an impact because, again, constants have changed. So there was like this massive change, which I assume would be his intent of driving into Project Flashlight in the first place, or blowing up Project Flashlight in the first place. So, if it is the real world still, then it doesn't look like his actions had a change. But I do kind of like to take the more optimistic look, and I think, it feels more like heaven than like hell that he ends up waking up on.
Well, no, I don't think either way that he's in heaven or hell. I think that like in both interpretations that we're talking about here, both are marginally good, as in they're not hell.
Yeah.
But the way it looks, like it's a beautiful landscape, it looks like heaven. So you could read it like he's dead and he's in heaven, and that's how they're showing heaven, or he's on another planet.
Sure.
Or he's stuck in another parallel universe, and that he was able to survive the event because he was about to die right as the event exploded. Like that's how I kind of read it.
Well, and I feel it is a little bit more heaven because I also feel like he's making more the moral choice rather than the practical choice to do what he does at the end, and I think maybe that's more noble, or that's like rewarded. So if you want to just go strictly by morality, but I think that is kind of an interesting dichotomy because it does feel much more like he's driven by like this sense of guilt or trying to atone for something than actually having an impact on the physical world.
Well, yeah, like it perfectly mirrors the sort of what happens before the film, where instead of doing something, he just decides to cop out and just try to commit suicide. And then this time he's not doing that. He's going to make a
sacrifice.
He's going to make a sacrifice. Yeah. And yeah, like the practical thing would be like in this scenario, I'm not even sure what that would be, because like if the world's if the contents, or if the constants are all changing, then that would mean like the Earth will quickly become unable to live on or something, right? Because then if they don't have all those things in a perfect alignment, then Earth is screwed. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think the movie is really, and I'd be curious to read the book to see how the book ends. But I think the movie leaves it really, really vague in the end as to where he is, or to what happened to him and to what happened to the rest of the planet.
Yeah,
and I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, he ends on a seashore here. Is it? Did I remember incorrectly? Are there seagulls flying around and very noticeable bird sounds on the soundtrack?
In the first shot of the film, when you see the sunrise,
yes,
I thought it was kind of funny because it was like a beautiful sunrise, and all of a sudden this seagull flies in front of the camera, and you hear like "Rah!" and then you start to hear more seagull sounds, and then so it becomes okay. But I thought that was kind of odd when it was starting. But yeah, the beginning of the film starts with that long sunrise, and then
the end of the film is the long Saturn rise.
Well, it's like a Saturn, but it's like. Yeah. It's like it's on a beach, and it's got like a yellowish glow, and whereas the intro had like a really orange red kind of
a hellish red to it.
Yeah. So yeah, like it does actually follow the Divine Comedy like superficially from hell to heaven, or from hell to paradise, or whatever it's called in those books. But yeah, it's a really good story, I think.
No, I would agree. I mean, and certainly it'd make a good double feature with the World, the Flesh, and the Devil. I mean, I don't think it has a single scene as great as, say, the haircut scene in the World, the Flesh, and the Devil. But I think as far as being consistent and adult, it's very good.
Yeah,
I think this is a little bit more focused in kind of like overall theme and how it wants to go about it. But I would agree, it doesn't have like the haircut scene or even the "I Don't Like It Here" song. But
well, again, I thought the World of Flesh and Devil was really about those three characters, whereas this movie was really focused on this guy's journey, and and the other two characters didn't have a bigger role to play as the other two characters did in The World, the Flesh, and the Devil, where it became like, a lot of sort of like high tension between these three people, and so like they're actually pretty different movies if you think about like just what they focus on, but like the general plot
premise,
general premise is really similar, but they do a lot of different things, I think. I forget how World of Flesh Devil ends. Like it ends with them reconciling, right? All three of them
before the United Nations statue of turning swords into plowshares.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, good pick, Nat. That was awesome.
Nice. Yeah, apparently this is one of Neil deGrasse Tyson's. This is his art house pick for his favorite sci-fi films.
Well, you gotta have a cult or a art house pick for that, right? When you make a list.
Mm-hmm. I wonder too. Like, I'm sure we are probably missing something or not appreciating something in the fact that Appy is Maori. I'm sure there's like some actions or what have you, like references to just the general interaction of the Maori to the rest of New Zealanders.
I think from what I can tell, it's the way he dresses and the way he speaks. That's kind of what they get the Maori-ness across. Mm-hmm. But I think Maoris are like, they are the indigenous people.
Yes.
Of New Zealand. So
my knowledge of the culture is basically limited to Once Were Warriors, which is an excellent film, but I don't know if that's the basis to make broad, sweeping cultural arguments on. Not that that's ever prevented me from doing such before, but I feel like when we watch The World, the Flesh, and the Devil, I think we kind of have a better understanding of like the history of race relations in the U.S. and kind of what you can and can't and what you could and couldn't do at that time, with the race relations in that movie, and kind of how it goes about walking that line is an interesting aspect of the movie. And I wonder if there's something similar there in terms of any racial tensions or. Mm-hmm. Or
I would say there would be, only if the film was focusing on that 3-person scenario more than, but it doesn't so much. It focuses more on Zach's for lack of a better explanation, his like journey through purgatory, and these two people are representative of like the human race, or like the people that he has to save, or that he has to sacrifice himself for, or something. And the fact that he's Maori just makes it. I'm not sure if it's even used that much, and like if the film, like if it makes that much of a difference in the film. Mm-hmm. There isn't a lot of tension created from that in the same way that was created in The World, the Flesh, and the Devil. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even when like Joanne sleeps with Appy, it's kind of like after her relationship with Zach is kind of ended, or like it doesn't seem like she's going behind his back or anything like that. It's more
no, it doesn't even have any like dramatic weight to it. It's just something that happens. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a betrayal or anything. It just seems like a natural flow here. Mm-hmm. That she likes him better, and so since she has a choice, she's going to exercise it. Mm-hmm. I do kind of wonder if there's something about the Maori and kind of a larger-than-life fantastical film genre that they seem to pop up in. I guess Whale Rider was pretty straightforward. I mean, maybe a little heightened. But I mean, I would say, is Taika Waititi Maori?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I mean, he got to be
but like
highest profile,
but like a small amount.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound like a crazy person, but he's not like he's not very dark skinned.
No, but he does deal it in his films like Boy and Hunt for the Wilder People, and I guess he could probably see a metaphor to the vampirism in What We Do in the Shadows. There must be that. It doesn't seem to be that the race relations in New Zealand, judging from films, are quite as stark as they are in America.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's just like historically the case, or if it's like we in America like kind of want to be more in everyone's face about how we like our failings in that regard. But
I mean, there's definitely tension there, but I don't think it's quite as pronounced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder if there is like something between, you know, how Epi ingratiates or becomes part of the group that's like a little bit more nuanced, that like one would kind of have to have like some extraordinary knowledge of New Zealand to really appreciate. Like if he is to be taken as more of a threat because he's Maori and it's kind of like his chance to get revenge for, you know, on these other New Zealanders, or if it's just like or if it's just kind of fairly straightforward. But
from the story, there isn't much opportunity for that to even come up as any sort of conflict. So it's not really. It's just kind of brushed aside, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the original sin in this film is what Zach Hobson might have done as part of Project Flashlight. Not
well,
Bryce.
and also deciding to commit suicide instead of speaking up about it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything more to say on it. Anything else you guys want to add to the conversation?
No, it was great. 4.5 out of 5.
What would have given it the extra 0.5?
I don't know. I just don't rate movies 5 out of 5 on a first watch.
Okay.
For some reason, I just need to watch them twice to see if they're perfect.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed it. I don't know what I would rate it, but I enjoyed it very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad I watched it. I'm kind of sad that Geoff Murphy didn't.
No kidding, Jesus.
Go on to follow up with the same kind of work. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's happy in his career, or maybe he's very successful. It seems weird. Like I would not have guessed that, you know, he is a director that, you know, at least would not be as well known. Like even in cult circles, like, you know, you say Taika Waititi, but, you know, he's fairly well known, I think, and I'm surprised, like, even with the internet, that he hasn't had that Geoff Murphy hasn't had a renaissance, or even that this movie specifically is not as well known.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never heard of it before, so it's it's weird.
It's not violent. That's the thing.
It could be that, but like he had a bunch of like really bad movies though after that.
That's true.
Like he did 3 sequels to films he didn't do the first entry to in the series. It's strange.
Mm-hmm. And maybe I can see that just because there, like I think you said at the beginning, Robert, there's not like a huge amount of dramatic tension or violence or sex or anything like that. I think there's
not an easy genre hook to it.
No, it's not blockbuster material, but I still feel like it's fairly straightforward though. Like it's not very difficult to follow.
It's not hard to follow, and it's really accessible, I think.
Yeah. And I really like a lot of the ideas that it touches on. I really like I like the actors. I like the characters and kind of the core emotions that it touches on. You know, I wish he at least would have more movies like this that just are, just a little bit more focused on I guess simple character moments or just thought experiments.
Well, he probably would have had better films if he didn't go to Hollywood. And I'm not just saying that as like, you know, some kind of anti-Hollywood thing, but a lot of foreign directors that have done that, like their careers went south big time. Like John Woo's movies got way worse, and Russell Mulcahy, I think he went to Hollywood. His movies weren't great. Mm-hmm. George Miller made a few ones in Hollywood, which I don't think are good. And who else am I missing? Sue Hark as well made a few. Those ones were bad. Yeah, it seems like he just like he was kind of using his work here to move over into that industry, but then when he goes there, he's on the bottom rung of directors, or you know, like he doesn't get the top projects that maybe he wanted to get.
Well, even like his movie after this is Never Say Die, which, just looking at it on Wikipedia, and I have not seen it, so I cannot accurately comment on it, but it does look like, much more Hollywood blockbuster type thing. So, even before going to Hollywood, it looks like, hey, here's my box office draw flick.
Yeah.
Here's the calling card that Hollywood can see that I can make a Hollywood genre film.
Mm-hmm. Although, actually, Red Knight, White Knight looks pretty interesting, and you got Tom Skerritt, Max von Sydow, and Helen Mirren.
Yeah, that does look good, yeah. Or not good, but, yeah, interesting.
They had a heck of a cast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tom Bell. Hey.
Okay, so shall we move on to mailbag or sci-fi films we watched aside from this one?
Let's go on to our mailbag quick.
Whoa, yes, wait a minute, Mr. Postman. Wait, hey, Mr. Postman. Hey, Mr. Postman, whoa, yeah. Please, Mr. Postman.
Okay.
We got one question, and I think it was good. It's from Todd. Our friend Todd said, "Hi guys, I enjoyed this show."
A trend in the names of these people who are submitting to the mailbag.
I think we've got an email from Todd before.
Todd, Rod.
I thought it was Rod last time.
No, it was Todd.
Okay.
So it says, "Hi guys, I enjoyed the show on THX 1138, but thought that since you were basically doing a Directors Club episode that you forgot to rank George Lucas's films at the end. Do you want to correct that oversight?"
Todd's throwing down.
This guy's a bit of an asshole.
Man.
Hey, don't say that about our listeners. We need every one of them.
Todd's going balls deep.
Okay, who wants to rank it first?
Is it George Lucas's movies?
George Lucas's movies.
So the movies that George Lucas has directed.
As directed. The six.
So not the Star Wars.
We're ranking like 4 movies here then?
I got 6.
Yeah, there's
okay.
6 technically, yeah.
So not his student films then?
Yeah. Not his student
Okay.
films. I only see... I would probably rank them somewhere in the middle. Because I did enjoy the student films that I watched, so... But... And then certainly they're better than the bottom 2 on this list. I'll go first if nobody else will.
Okay.
Number 6, I'm going to put Attack of the Clones.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the Harryhausen climax. I enjoyed seeing Christopher Lee. I think Ewan McGregor is fine in it. I enjoy some of the special effects and set pieces. And boy, do Christian Hayden, or was it Christian... what's his name?
Christian Hayden. Jesus. Hayden Christensen?
Hayden Christensen.
Christian Haydenson.
Christian Haydenson and Natalie Portman have
Judd
not a lick of chemistry, and they can't elevate George Lucas's dialogue whatsoever. So yeah, I think I would put that at the very bottom. Number 5, I would put The Phantom Menace. I like the pod race. I like the final duel. I like John Williams' score. I like Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor. I think Darth Maul is at least an interesting-looking villain, and Jake Lloyd cannot act at all. And I think they missed the beat there by not
Robert's
having
throwing down here.
Natalie Portman and Anakin Skywalker at least somewhat in the same range, so that they could actually develop a relationship at the beginning. I thought this was a very basic mistake not making, say, Anakin like a 16-year-old drag racer, like George Lucas should know of, instead of a little kid. So those are the 2 worst. I kind of like Revenge of the Sith at points. I think that's my number 4. Again, if Christensen and Portman had chemistry, it would probably be a really good movie, or I mean, not really good, but at least a better movie. But I think Lucas does some nice visual storytelling things in there. I like Ian McDiarmid chewing the scenery in it. I think he's fun, and the basic story I think is fine, even if the dialogue isn't always fine. There's some nice montages in there and some nice special effects in that. I mean, it certainly has its problems, but I give that one pretty much just a pass. I mean, it's not a film that I wouldn't watch if somebody put it on, but I just don't turn it on by myself.
Yeah.
Number 3, I would put THX 1138. I think it's very well crafted, although the story leaves me a little cold. And people can listen to our last episode on THX 1138. Now we get to the big 2. I'll put number 2, Star Wars. Yeah, I think it's might be one of the most influential films made in the last 50 years, and it's certainly not a bold statement on my part. I think it's a lot of fun. A little inconsistent in the acting department because there are scenes that Mark Hamill's just not very good in, but I think it basically works. It tells a nice adventure story. The humor works. The action scenes work. The climax works. John Williams' score works. The art design works. Costuming is a lot of fun. I think it's just a really good film. I kind of wish it wasn't as quite as influential as it is, but it's I thoroughly enjoy it every time I watch it, and I've watched it a lot. Number 1, I'll put American Graffiti. That I think it's a film about teenagers or young adults directed by an adult. I think Lucas has firm grasp on the material, the tone. I think all the performances are good. I think every scene basically works. The score or the soundtrack, I think he integrates it well, and the way he edits together the people cruising on the main street and the strip. I think all of that is really good, and I like that it is about Vietnam or the impending Vietnam, and he tells it without beating you over the head with it. So I think it's just an excellent film, and I think it's his masterpiece. Okay, who wants to take a cut at this next?
I'll go.
Okay.
Number 6, Attack of the Clones. Movie sucks. Number 5, this is pretty much a toss-up between my 4 and 5. Number 5, I would say Revenge of the Sith. It's probably a better movie, but I remember enjoying The Phantom Menace more. I was young when I saw Phantom Menace, though, and haven't seen it since, and haven't seen Revenge of the Sith since. I've probably only seen them both. I've probably only seen the prequels one time each.
Yeah. I will say Revenge of the Sith probably does have George Lucas's best line of those 3 films, of the prequel films. Like, about this is how democracy falls.
Yeah, that's a good line. Mm-hmm. So my 4 would be Phantom Menace. When it came out, I really, really liked it. I was like 13, I remember. Or no, I was 12, I think. And I actually bought the novelization, and then I read that, and I bought the Pod Racer video game for N64, and I played that a lot, and then I also bought for N64 this like Star Wars game, but it was like going through the plot of Empire Strikes Back, and that was a really fun game. So I was really into Star Wars at that point.
Was that Shadows of the Empire?
I don't know. I don't remember what was it
one
called.
of the Dark Forces games?
No, it was for 64. Okay. So it was like you did a Hoth level, you did a Han Solo level, you did a TIE fight shooting level. Like it was all over the place.
Oh, is it like Rebel Assault?
No, it's before those.
Okay. Sounds like Shadows of the Empire. Or
it probably is that. But yeah, it was a good game, and I would probably say though, if I were to watch the prequels again, my ratings might change. Not my last one, but because that one was bad. But yeah, I don't know why I like Phantom Menace so much. I think I just like the 2 main Jedi, and I liked I liked the pod racing, and I liked a lot of the battles, like near the end. Whereas I thought Revenge of the Sith seemed to like wrap things up too quick for my liking, but in general, it's not bad. It's nowhere close to being as bad as Attack of the Clones, and I actually like it better than the last 2 Star Wars movies that were made. Actually, I would take any of the prequels over any of the Star Wars films made, like over the last 2 made. To be honest,
that's a bold statement.
Wait, with the last 2 made like Force Awakens and Rogue One, or not the original one.
Not the originals, no.
Oh,
I would
okay.
take the last two prequels over the most recent Star Wars movies. I find those really boring. Now, number 3 would be American Graffiti. Again, the top 3 are pretty much interchangeable. American Graffiti I like a bit. Yeah, it's good. I seen it with my dad first time, and it was one of his favorite movies, so we watched it, and I liked it a lot. I've probably only seen it once. And then number 2 would be THX. I've seen that one more than once or twice at least, and I have it on DVD, and I like that one. And then number 1 is Star Wars: A New Hope, because I've seen it many, many times, and it's really enjoyable, really easy to watch. I don't know, like I wouldn't call like one of the best films of all time, but I would say it's certainly one of the most entertaining movies of all time. And out of all the Star Wars, like out of the original trilogy, I like it the most out of the original trilogy too. So,
Well, it's the one Star Wars film of all of them that just stands alone.
yeah.
I mean, Empire kind of needs Return of the Jedi to wrap things up, to tie up the loose ends. And everything else seems to be reflecting on Star Wars or Empire to some extent.
The more I watch Empire, the less I like it, to be honest. I think the main thing I don't like about Empire is the relationship between Han Solo and Leia. I find it really forced and really creepy too. And I don't like it that much for that, and I just don't like it as much as the first one. The first one I thought was just, pretty much perfect the way it was made, like the editing, the action sequences. There are parts of the second one that I like a lot too, like the Hoth sequence is really good. And the third one I haven't seen probably since I was a kid, so I can't really judge on that one. But when I was a kid, that was probably my favorite one, because of all like the like racer bikes, and I liked seeing Luke in like the full Jedi sort of mode, like he was like he was not just training at this point, he was kind of like almost as like good a Jedi he'll ever be, and so that was kind of cool, I thought. And I like the ending as well too. But yeah, so those are my rankings. They don't really make a lot of sense given what I've said about anything in the past, but I'm just going with like the ones I like the most. I'm sure not like which ones are like the best film. I could try to do that, but it would be a little hard for me to detach like just my like the fact that I haven't seen these since I was a kid, so or like a young teenager.
So
all right, on to
probably not too many surprises, although I would probably put Phantom Menace at the bottom of my list.
What?
There's really not anything in there, I think, that consistently stands out for me. Even with Attack of the Clones, I actually do like the Obi-Wan Kenobi investigation part of that. Like, just the kind of noir elements within that, or adaptations of noir elements that are in that. But I do like that storyline in Attack of the Clones, and there's no real singular storyline that I like or even can readily identify in Phantom Menace.
Wait, you're not enthralled by the trade guild negotiations?
Actually, maybe if I rewatched it, that would be interesting to me. I do like the 3-movie storyline of how the Emperor eventually ends up taking over the Senate and creating the Empire. Like, I actually do kind of like that. But yeah, not a big fan of the pod race. I do like Darth Maul, and I do like the duel at the end. But I don't know. I mean, and it's not like there's a huge amount of difference between the two. Revenge of the Sith I do kind of like quite a bit. I think Lucas did kind of write himself into a corner, like having to resolve stuff, and I feel like that one's a little bit more pointed. And again, Ian McDiarmid gets his chance to shine in that, even if Hayden Christensen doesn't. But he's less obnoxious, I guess, in that one than Attack of the Clones. As for the other 3, probably THX, and then American Graffiti, and then the original Star Wars. I mean, not really too much to justify, I think, any of our rankings. Like, we have a pretty clear split between, what are the top three and what are the bottom three.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody's going to be real surprised here. I think ours is, there's some movement at the top and some at the bottom, but I think THX 1138 in the middle is, I think that's pretty standard. Not real controversial director.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Shall we rank the Star Wars movies now?
I thought we did that already.
Well, we can just rank them quickly, just quickly rank them, not give explanations.
Does this include the
new ones? Yeah.
The new ones. Okay.
All Star Wars live action movies made.
Okay.
Does it include the Ewok television films?
It can. I've seen them.
Christmas special. I
haven't seen that, but I heard it's bad.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's just rank the Star Wars titles movies, not the spin-offs. So the Ewoks. Although I like those too. I saw them when I was a kid. Okay, we'll go same order. Robert, me, Nat.
Okay. Last, Attack of the Clones.
Mm-hmm.
Next, Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
Next, The Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm.
Next, Revenge of the Sith. Next, Rogue One. Next, Return of the Jedi. Star Wars, and then Empire Strikes Back at the top of the list.
Okay, I'm trying to get... So my bottom one is Force Awakens. Then I'm going to go Rogue One. Then I'm going to go Attack of the Clones. Then I'm going to go Revenge of the Sith. Then Phantom Menace. Then Return of the Jedi, Empire, and A New Hope. Nat.
Okay. Me? Phantom Menace at the bottom. Attack of the Clones. Force Awakens. Rogue One. Revenge of the Sith and Return of the Jedi. Although those are a little bit closer. Star Wars and then Empire Strikes Back.
All right, there we go.
Okay.
Anything else you guys have seen for sci-fi? I've seen a few things. I'll just kind of mention quickly if you don't mind.
No, go ahead, Cody.
Yeah.
So I got to see the new Ghost in the Shell.
I'm interested in it. I know the reviews weren't totally kind, but they weren't totally awful either.
Yeah, I'll probably talk the most about this one. Okay, well I'll just go through my list of things I've seen that are related to sci-fi. I saw The Discovery on Netflix with Robert Redford. Horrible. I saw Ender's Game. Finally, haven't read the books. Didn't mind the movie, to be honest. I gave it 3 out of 5. I don't think it's horrible, but I like the sort of story, that's there. From what I know of the other books, there's a big jump in time from the first to the second book. So I doubt they're going to make the rest of the books into movies, but who knows? And then a few nights ago, I went to a double bill because we don't have the kids this weekend. So me and my girlfriend, we watched Get Out, which isn't sci-fi, but I loved it. It's really, really good. And I saw Life with Ryan Reynolds, Jake Gyllenhaal, and a bunch of other people, and that was horrible. That was really bad. I saw that about a half an hour. I just finished watching Get Out, and I was just maybe not in the mood to watch another film or something that right away. But I just hated the whole thing from start to finish. I thought it was one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Alien meets Gravity is what I hear.
Yeah, but it's worse than both. But it's really bad. Yeah, it's a lot more like Alien than Gravity, and it sucks. So don't watch it. No one watched that movie. And I will say, so for Ghost in the Shell, I'm a huge fan of this whatever you want to call it, this franchise. I have seen nearly all of the films. I haven't seen the last film that was made because I need to finish the second series of the TV series first. But I've seen, all the main films. I've seen the first season of the TV series. I've read the book, the original book. So like the original comic book, I have like the Dark Horse. I believe it's Dark Horse, the Dark Horse publication. So I know a lot about this series, and the movie is not great, but it's not bad either. Like, the one complaint I have is that they seem to lift just like straight images or sequences from the original movie, but the story is completely different. So then it's a weird way to sort of, like, it's not really remaking the first film, but they're basically just taking sequences that are really iconic, but then the story is completely changed. So the meaning of the sequences and how they fit into everything, it has changed completely. So it seems like in some respects it's original, like the story's new, but in other respects it's kind of relying on the visuals of the previous movies. And then the plot is basically a mishmash of the plot of the first film and then a bad guy from the second season of the TV series, which were made by two different directors. And they don't really, and it doesn't really work very well. And in that respect, they ruined, or they basically wasted two really good antagonists for future films. So I'm not really sure. That's all I'll kind of say about it, unless you guys end up watching it, and then we can talk more about it on another podcast. And I'm not going to give too many spoilers, but I'm not sure if you guys have seen the original movie.
I have not.
Or no, Nat, have you?
I have not.
No, okay. Okay, yeah. So then maybe you don't know what I'm talking about then. But,
probably not. But I am kind of interested in the world they have built there. How does that look on the screen? Is it interesting?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's basically a complete like palette swap from the first movie, except not as dark. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same. Like the series borrowed a lot from Neuromancer and from Blade Runner.
Okay.
So like you have a lot of those things. Like this series, like the original book was not really like meant to be that serious. Like it's it's a kind of a goofy, like it's very goofy at points. And you know, I'm not a huge fan at all of Japanese comics, but I kind of read the book because I just like this series so much. And but the movie, like the original movie, is very, very good, and so is the sequel to it, and the TV series, in my opinion, is even better. So you know, and there's a new prequel series out that was released on Netflix, I believe, not exclusively, but that was like sort of a prequel to everything that's been made, and that was okay. But if you guys do watch this movie, you should watch the original movie at the very least, because it is interesting to see how much they borrow in terms of the images, but not so much in just the actual story of the first film. Because I'm not going to spoil it, but the first film is one that ends so that there wouldn't be any other sequels, whereas this one ends completely opposite.
Okay.
So that's where it's completely different. Like, it's sort of...
If they knew in advance, they could probably have saved themselves the hassle of setting up sequels.
Yeah, but, like, that's the way the book ends, too. The book ends with, like, the same ending as the first film. Like, it was meant to be, like, just a contained story, right? And then the TV series is kind of everything that happened before the first film. Mm-hmm. And the TV series, in my opinion, was better. Has some really awesome stories, really complex. But the movie is like a mixture of the visuals from the first film, and then the plots, and the sort of long form storytelling that would be intended for a TV series. So that's where it really fails. Mm-hmm. But I think Scarlett Johansson is fine in the role, and yeah, I don't think it's a big deal that she was cast over an Asian actress because she's not a real human. Like it's about a synthetic human, so it's about someone who has a soul, like has their soul completely digitized and then downloaded into a robotic body. So it doesn't really matter what her body is, to be honest. I'm sure we'll get some hate mail from that if people would actually listen to our podcast. But
well, story wise, I can agree with you, though. I think if I was an Asian actress and there was a potential big budget role that they gave to a white actress, I would probably be pretty upset about it too.
Sure, but even in the book,
there's not that many opportunities out there, and there's no reason to make it for there to be less opportunities.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. But in the book, like, it's really not even like, none of the characters are even like presenting as Japanese people. Like, it's a completely globalized world where you have a complete mixture of people of origin all over the place in Tokyo. So even the team in the original books, like, a lot of them look like they're American or British or something.
Yeah, that's pretty standard for Japanese animation and comics.
And in the movie, they made characters Japanese who didn't look Japanese in the book or in the original TV series and the original movie. So they did a lot of good casting as well too. Like, they cast Takashi Kitano as the captain of her team, and I thought he did a really good job. He didn't speak a word of English in the film. So yeah, it's not bad. It's not as bad as people are saying it is, I would say.
No, I think there's a lot of interesting things going on in there, from what I was able to gather from reviews. I mean, it might just be a case as the interesting failure, which is which is a better watch than a very safe film that's technically successful but doesn't take any risks or leave you any long-term memories. It's just forgettable after you watch it.
Yeah, I would say that this one is just in general very average, but I'm glad that they started making this because hopefully the subsequent films in the franchise will be better. Well, they might need a better director to do that, or at least a better writer. But yeah, like the guy that made this has a pretty small resume, and I think he did a pretty good job with what he was given. But the problem lies with the script for the most part. So
yeah,
anyway,
I don't know if it's going to make enough money to justify any further films, but maybe the idea, they just have to start smaller and then build their way up to this big blockbuster status.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe instead of spending $100+ million, you should try to do an $80 million Japanese anime film and see where that leads you to.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, it didn't make a lot of money at all.
No.
Holy crap. That's not good.
No. Well, I mean, I think they'll try again just because Japanese animation's out there, and they'll sit fallow for about 4 or 5 years, and somebody will try something different with a Japanese animation and live action adaptation. I think it's inevitable that somebody tries again. Just like it's inevitable that somebody tries with a video game movie again, even though track record on those are god awful.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, shall we wrap it up then?
You have to tell us what our film is for next month, Cody.
Okay, I'm gonna pick. I'm a little torn. There's about 5 movies I want to pick, but there's not enough time in the year for that because of how we pick the films. But
we can always do a double bill.
No, I don't think that's a good idea. Well, maybe, but they wouldn't fit together.
This is from the guy who chose World on a Wire.
I know. I know you're going to bring that up.
But we enjoyed World on a Wire. So.
Yeah, no, I really want to watch this film. I think I'll get to it later when maybe all of us have a bit more time. It's called Until the End of the World by Wim Wenders, but it is 287 minutes long. And so I don't think we have time for that. So I will save it for a later one, but I would like to watch Life Force by Tobe Hooper.
Nice.
and written by Dan O'Bannon. I've never
seen
it.
That one. It was kind of legendary on the playground, though, back in the day for Matilda May.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, it says here that though seldom recognized, Life Force is largely a remake of Hammer Film's Quatermass in the Pit.
It's space vampires. I aware of that, and I've heard about the Quatermass comparison. I will need to be convinced, but
yeah.
But
Yeah,
Patrick
and I
Stewart
do
is in that
like,
one too, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Let me check. Yeah, he is, and a bunch of other actors I don't know. Yeah, so yeah, I'm excited to watch it. I don't think it's going to be good, but I think it's going to be interesting.
Well, I think there'll be reasons to enjoy it, even if they're not the right reasons to enjoy a film.
Right, yeah.
But the right reasons to enjoy this film.
Correct. I've never seen it. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. I mean, at the worst, it might be trashy fun, and maybe there's a better movie hidden in there than I suspect. So, it'll be interesting.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Looking forward to it.
and that should wrap up this episode. If you have questions or comments, you can email us at skiespodcast@gmail.com, post on this topic at wherethelongtailends.com, or leave us a note on Facebook. Also, feel free to share a link on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll join us next month for Life Force. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Watch the skies everywhere. Keep looking. Keep watching the skies.